So I had picked up a fresh loaf of bread on Monday morning and could not resist using that bread to make a nice sandwich for lunch. I've been obsessed with a chickpea and caramelized onion smash, so that is what I decided to make. It very simply starts by slicing one large yellow onion into slices, as well as mincing some garlic. The onion is going into a small frying pan with olive oil, and I'm letting this get soft for a few minutes before adding a sprinkle of sugar and a sprinkle of salt. The sugar will speed up the caramelization process to make this a 20-minute lunch. Otherwise, caramelization takes about 45 minutes. After about 8 to 10 minutes, the onion has gotten some nice color, so I'm adding in the minced garlic and keep sauteing this for another 2 minutes until the garlic is fragrant. Once that is the case, I'm using a small food processor to make the filling. But I have also made this using just a fork, which works just as well. So to the food processor, I'm adding some chickpeas that I had drained and rinsed, those delicious caramelized onions, lemon juice for both freshness and a nice tang, some nutritional yeast for a lightly cheesy flavor, thyme, salt and pepper to season, and some tahini to make the filling creamy. I pulse this a few times and add splashes of water as needed if the mixture is too dry, but make sure to not overmix this. We do want some chunks in there to keep a nice texture. And then it is already time to assemble the sandwich. So onto a slice of bread, I'm adding some whole grain mustard, but you can just use whatever spread you like. Then piling on the chickpea filling. This filling makes enough for one big sandwich. I'm then also adding some sliced tomato and lettuce, which adds a nice crunch. And I'm wrapping this up in some baking paper to make eating a bit easier. I got this little tray recently and I love to use this for sandwiches. It's just the perfect size. And of course I am cutting this open to reveal that cross-section we all know and love. This filling can also easily be prepared ahead of time and kept in the fridge for a few days, making this a great meal prep friendly lunch option. Moving on to Tuesday, and I was in the mood for potato salad. And I need to preface this by saying that I am not a fan of traditional, creamy potato salad. I think I will be traumatized for life by a classic German potato salad with mayonnaise. So I only like potato salad the way I'm preparing it here, with a Dijon dressing. And another thing is, in my opinion, there needs to be something else going on as well, some other ingredients than potatoes to add some flavor and different textures. So I always add red onion, lots of pickles and some fresh herbs, dill in this case. The ideal ratio for me is honestly when the potatoes are just another ingredient and not even the star of the show. But maybe that's just me. So those veggies are all being cut up while the potatoes are cooking on the stove. And I am making the dressing with olive oil, white wine vinegar, Dijon mustard, salt and some pepper. I've been combining dressings at the bottom of the mixing bowl to save some dishes, and I don't think I'll go back to using a small bowl. Anyhow, the potatoes are going straight in there along with some chickpeas for protein and texture and all of those aromatic veggies we have chopped up. In all honesty, this tastes even better if you let it sit to soak up all of that flavor for a few hours. So perhaps you could prep this in the morning or the night before and eat it for lunch the next day, or just make a big batch for quick lunches throughout the week. Regardless, this is also delicious eaten straight away and much, much better than a creamy potato salad, at least in my humble opinion. I am pretty sure this spaghetti aglio olio e peperoncino is the quickest and easiest recipe from this entire video, but that doesn't mean it's not worthy of being included. I remember on this day I just wanted a super quick pasta for lunch, so this was honestly the perfect meal. I very simply chopped up a handful of fresh parsley and then minced some garlic. I'm a garlic girl, so I like a lot. And I'm single anyway, so no one's gonna care. And then moving over to the stove, I added my spaghetti into a pot of salted boiling water to cook for around 6 minutes before heating up a large pan over the heat. I added a good amount of extra virgin olive oil over medium heat before adding in that minced garlic and letting this get soft and golden for around 2 to 3 minutes, ensuring not to burn the garlic and turning the heat down if needed. Once slightly golden, I added in some chili flakes. Once again, use however many you like here. These got about a minute in the pan, and by then my pasta had been cooking for 6 minutes. So I transferred this straight into the pan with the garlic and chili. Of course, you can also drain the pasta, but be sure to save the cooking water and do not rinse the pasta. So I then went in with some additional pasta water as well as the fresh parsley and stirred this constantly for about 2 minutes over medium heat until the pasta had finished cooking completely and the sauce was emulsified and slightly creamy. Obviously, this pasta sauce is super simple, so there are a few important things to note here, like using good quality olive oil and pasta, which will make or break this dish, as well as using a good quantity of olive oil as well to make sure the sauce comes together with the pasta water and you're not left with a watery slump. Perhaps you could serve this with a side salad for some added veggies and protein, but sometimes you just want a bowl of pasta. And in that case, this one's for you. The next recipe is seriously super easy and packed full of flavor from a bunch of warming spices and a creamy tahini dressing, which is served over couscous and some hearty roasted veggies. You can use whatever veggies you like or you have in the fridge. I tend to go for carrots and cauliflower, and I add some chickpeas in there too for some added protein. So you get those on a baking tray and add curry powder, ground cumin, coriander and cayenne, as well as a pinch of salt, and massage those spices into the veggies to make sure they're all coated and flavorful. This tray is going in the oven for around 20 minutes while preparing the rest of the ingredients. For the grain, I am using some couscous, which I'm adding to a heat-proof container with a pinch of salt, and I am covering this with some boiling water and putting the lid onto the container to let this steam for around 5 minutes. At this point, I am once again using some fresh herbs to add lots of flavor into this dish. I find fresh mint and parsley go very well with the veggies and couscous. And then the last thing to be made is a simple tahini and harissa sauce, which is unsurprisingly made by combining some tahini, harissa paste, salt, as well as water to make it a pourable consistency. Once the veggies in the oven were smelling and looking amazing, I took the tray out of the oven and added the couscous straight on there, followed by the fresh herbs, and mixed this together on the tray. So this is a super low effort and almost one tray dish. I then served up this couscous veggie mix into my favorite bowl, drizzling that delicious tahini and harissa sauce all over and squeezing some lemon juice on top as well to add some extra freshness. I honestly cannot explain how flavorful and delicious this bowl was. It comes together so quickly with minimal cleanup too, which is always a plus. Okay, when I say 20-ish minutes, this next recipe is not included because I ended up making the pita and the falafels from scratch yesterday. I was just in the mood to cook. But I still wanted to include these pita pockets because I feel like these are a great thing to make from scratch, perhaps on the weekend, if you are making lunch with your friends or if you just want to do a bit of self-care. So I've left the recipe for the pita and the falafel in the caption for you if you do want to make them yourself. However, obviously, you can just use the store-bought version if you don't have that much time or energy or you just don't want to do it. And I feel like in that case, this lunch would probably take like 10 minutes max. So all that's left to do now is make a chopped salad for the filling, which is cherry tomatoes, cucumber, red onion, parsley, mint, sumac, and salt, and lemon juice. So for the pita, the key to getting those air bubbles on the inside is flipping them every 10 to 20 seconds or so on medium heat rather than letting them hang out on high heat for minutes at a time. And I'm also frying up the falafels in some oil until crispy and golden on all sides. So let's assemble. I gathered all of my ingredients and cut the top of the pita pocket. And then I kind of gently cut this open, just the top part, to reveal that air bubble. Adding in some tahini sauce, which I very simply made by combining tahini with a little salt and water to thin, followed by the pan-fried falafels, which were so crispy, the chopped salad, some more falafel, and lastly some more tahini sauce. I made 2 pockets with this filling and had some leftover falafel and chopped salad on the side. and I was very happy to have such good food for a nice weekend lunch. I plan to make these again soon for my friends, so everyone can build their own pockets, which I love about meals like these, which you can share with the people you love. Alright, we have made it to the last recipe, but it is definitely not the least because this coconut tofu rice bowl is becoming one of my favorites for lunch. I start by cutting some tofu into large cubes and adding this into a container with cornstarch, shaking it up to make sure the tofu is coated well, and I am adding this onto a baking tray and then baking it in the oven for about 15 minutes until the sides are just starting to get crispy. In the meantime, I am cooking up some white rice to have as the base for this dish, and then turning my attention to the pan sauce, which is the star of the show. My vision with this was to create a sauce that is similar to a satay sauce, but not quite as heavy, because I definitely prefer eating rich and dense sauces for dinner rather than lunch, if that makes sense. But I am still making the sauce super flavorful and delicious by adding a bunch of grated ginger, turmeric, chili, salt and pepper, and I am whisking this all together to make sure there are no lumps. I then bring the sauce to a rapid simmer and let the coconut milk reduce for about 10 minutes until the tofu is lightly crispy. Once that is the case, I am adding the tofu straight into the pan and mixing it into that beautiful glossy sauce to coat. I leave this to bubble away and soak up all of that flavor for another few minutes. So now it is time to put everything together. I also decided to have this with some cucumber, pickled red onions and fresh parsley on this day for freshness, and drizzled over some extra sauce, which is literally making my stomach growl. I will have to make this for lunch today, but certainly enjoyed this as a warming lunch on a cold afternoon.